All right, welcome to our gentle class today. And you will likely want to have a chair, some kind of firm chair, not a soft, cushy chair, or blocks, or both for our practice today. And so you can get those things and get yourselves settled. And our theme today is, it sort of follows along a little bit from the theme last week, which was fire. So one of the aspects of fire is its light. And we're going to look at a different aspect of light today. Also light and dark, actually, in the moon. So right now the moon is waxing, it's getting bigger, and I've been watching it each day grow a little bit, and I'm thinking probably by Halloween or so, it's gonna be nice and full. And the moon reminds us that as it goes through its phases, that we also go through phases, and sometimes we feel darker, sometimes we feel lighter, sometimes we just want to go disappear into ourselves, and sometimes we want to shout out to the world. And the moon reminds us that all of that is part of the natural way of being. Right? So it's not like we should always be in a bright, sunny, happy mood, or, that we should always hide away from the world, but that we go through these cycles just like the moon. Maybe they're not quite as predictable, but for some people, we cycle along with the moon, right? We go a little crazy with the full moon and even out through the rest of the time. But whatever it is, however the moon affects you personally, there is an impact of the moon on the tides and on our bodies. But figuratively speaking, it's really about remembering that those changes that we go through, those phases that we go through are temporary, they're normal. And if we're in a dark phase, it's going to come back around to a lighter phase eventually. So holding on to that image of the moon to help us to remember that those phases are normal and part of life, and that we're never going to eradicate them. If we eradicate the phases of light and dark and sort of feeling up and feeling down, what we actually do is we numb ourselves, right? So we just pretend that everything is fine all the time, but really we're numb inside. So to live that full, rich life, we need to go through those phases, those ups and downs. All right, so we're going to start seated. You can sit, like I said, on a chair or on a block or a cushion on the ground, or right on the ground, whatever works for you. All right, I think I'll sit on my cushion on the ground so you get yourself comfortable. You're probably already there as I organize myself. So let's take a moment to tune into the breath. So just like the moon, the breath has a full phase, and the breath has an empty or a dark or a quiet phase. So as you breathe in, you might even imagine that full moon growing into its splendor. And as you exhale, imagine the moon shrinking back to its darkness. Breathing in, feeling the fullness. Breathing out the darkness. You can take a few more breaths like that. Just starting to imagine the moon as it moves into fullness and moves into newness. You don't have to breathe in any particular way. Simply letting the breath come and go into its natural fullness, and then into its natural darkness or emptiness, or releasing the breath. And then wherever you are, whether you're on a chair or on the ground, you can bring your hands onto your knees, and we'll add a little spinal flexion and extension. So as you inhale into the fullness of the full moon, feel as though the chest lifts, shoulders draw back, there's a little bit of arch in the back, and then as you round forward, coming into yourself, going into that contemplative place of darkness. Inhale, opening into the light, fullness of the moon, and exhaling into its dark cover of night. Continue at your own breath pace. Your breath might be faster or slower than mine. Just follow the rhythm that works for you. And then let's add a few circles for the torso. So again, just wherever you are. If you're sitting on a chair, you might take your feet a little wider so that you're nice and stable. Keep your sit bones anchored onto your chair, cushion or block or ground. Just let the upper body move. You could imagine that your upper body is like a spoon and your pelvis is a bowl and you're stirring all around, and then go the other way, stirring. And then making your way back to the center. We'll add a gentle twist for the spine. So lifting both arms, breathing in. And then as you exhale, one hand comes to the thigh, if you can reach, if not, just wherever you reach. The other hand either comes to the seat of the chair or the ground, and you're turning as you lengthen. You'll inhale, come to center, and then turn as you lengthen. Inhale, center, turning, growing tall. You're not using leverage or force, you're just placing the hands, using the one behind you maybe to lift you, but we're not cranking ourselves into the twist here. It's nice and easy. You can stay for a couple of breaths if it feels good. So keep lengthening, turning back behind you, chin down. And then back to the center. Going the other way. Again, lengthening, keeping the spine tall. The hand can rest wherever it lands. Chin slightly down, back of the neck long. And then coming to the center, we'll do a few forward bends. So you can either bring your hands to your thighs, and that's going to be your better option if you're sitting on a chair. Or if it's comfortable and you can reach and you're on the ground, you can reach for the ground and let the body come forward over the legs. So breathing in as you lift, coming forward as you exhale. Okay, and then coming back up, and we'll release the arms back down. Now we'll move into a little bit of a side stretch. So you can take one hand to the ground, or if you're sitting on a chair, just to the seat of your chair. And we're going to reach the other arm up. And before we move anywhere, we're going to think about this line from the fingertips all the way down to the sit bone. And we're going to lengthen that line by pressing down into both sit bones, reaching up through the fingertips. You can always bend your arm if that's better for your shoulder. And then walking the hand away or bending the elbow, depending on where you are. You're going to reach to the side and lift back up. So it's not about going as far as you can, but keeping both sides of your torso long. Exhale as you go to the side. And inhale as you come back up to the center. If it feels good, you can stay for a few breaths here. You make sure you're not jamming up the shoulder that's on the ground, so you can reach the arm away, bend the elbow. Keep that sit bone anchored, breathe into that long side. Again, you can bring the arm down or bend the elbow, bring it to the waist or the shoulder if that's more comfortable, or reach right up and over. Good. And then let's come back to the center and place the fingers of the other hand, fingertips on the ground, or you can bring your hand to the chair. And we'll start with that feeling of really lengthening So both sit bones press down, reaching up, again, bent arm if that's more comfortable. And then as you're ready, you can reach to the side as you exhale. Inhale, lift. So we're not lifting either sit bone. So if you end up going so far to the side that you're lifting up, then you're going too far. So reach up and a little over. Support yourself with the hand on the ground of the chair. Again, you can do a few more dynamically, or if you prefer, you can stay for a few breaths. Both sit bones anchored, both sides of the torso extending and lengthening. Even though we're moving to one side, and of course it's getting shorter, we're just trying not to collapse there. So both sides are growing long. And then back to the center. Take a moment with your breath to notice how much space we've created around the sides of the body. And then let's make our way over onto hands and knees, onto all fours. And as we come there, work a little bit with the wrists. So taking the wrists just maybe a little ahead of the shoulders. And shifting your weight from one side to the other. And as you do, you can start to take each hand up and turn it out a little. As the fingertips turn back towards you, you're going to walk the hands towards your knees. And your hands may not turn all the way around comfortably. Please, please, please honor your wrists. Come back to the center and start to turn the fingers in. And back, fingers pointing forward. If it's comfortable, you can sit on your heels for a moment. If not, just come up to high kneeling to do a few circles with your wrists, just to release before we come back to all fours. Whatever's comfortable for you. Give a little shake. And then coming back to all fours, let's move into the movement where we arch or extend the spine in cow position, and then round or flex the spine in the cat position. Bend your elbows, especially as you come through to the couch. So there's a tendency to lock the elbows and jam the shoulders up. Draw back, so as if you're pulling the mat towards your knees. Let the chest come forward, and then push the mat away as the head comes down and around. You're not cranking your head back when you inhale. Think about the crown of the head reaching away from the tail. And tucking them both in and under. Okay, let's take a moment to get a little weight off the wrists by moving the hips back toward the heels. Alternately, you could keep the hips up and come onto your forearms, letting the head release. Or back to child's pose with maybe the head on the hands or head on the ground. And take a few breaths here. If it feels good to you, you can rock your hips a little bit side to side to release the back of the waist a bit. Okay. So we're going to spend a little bit more time on our hands and knees. So if you need a break at any time for your wrists, you can come down onto your forearms at any point or move back into child's pose for a moment. So I'm going to trust you to take care of yourselves there. So here, as we take a breath in, we're going to stretch one leg back, and then exhale and round back, bring that knee in. Inhale, stretch back, the head and chest lifts a little, the leg lifts, and then exhale, bring it in. One more on the side. And then bringing that knee down. If your knees need extra padding, you can always double your mat over. And same with your wrists. You can bring the mat towards you from the front or from the back to get as much padding as you need. And then other side, lifting with the breath in, rounding and bringing the knee in as you exhale. And after your next exhalation, we'll return the knee to the ground beside the other knee. And again, you can come to child's pose or the modified version of puppy. Let your wrists take a little break. And come into your breath. And as you're breathing in this quiet place, this sort of new moon place of going inward, you might feel the breath moving into the back of your body and releasing from the back of your body. Just taking a moment to notice the breath here. You're either in child's pose or puppy pose or any other position that's comfortable for you. And then the next one, we're going to work a little bit with the glutes. So you're going to come back to all fours. You're going to stretch one leg back, toes on the ground, and you need to make sure you've got some space beside you. And you're going to drag your foot forward. Now it could stop part way. It could come right out to the side or even a little further forward and then back. You can even go across to the other side a little. So we're making kind of a quarter circle or perhaps a little bit more, just dragging the toes. It's easier on hardwood floor as I've got here, especially if I had socks on, it would really slide. Great, come back, take a break for a moment. Come to child's pose or puppy pose. We're just getting the weight off the wrists. You may want to do a little movement for your wrists here. Great, and then I'm going to turn around because I don't have room to do that movement on the other side of me. So you can assess your situation and see how it goes. We're going to take the toes back to the ground and slide out to the side and maybe a bit forward. I mean, really, your body will tell you when to stop, and if you listen, then you'll know. You can go back and cross a little the other way. Great, maybe one more on this side. And you might feel your glutes waking up a little bit now. And then again, let's come to child's pose or puppy pose. Rest your head wherever it's comfortable or just let it hang there. Maybe again, rock a little side to side to release some of those big muscles around the hips and the back of the waist and the buttocks. Taking a few breaths in child's pose. Or whatever pose you happen to be in, whatever you're comfortable in. And then from here, you come back to all fours. You can tuck your toes under. And if this way of getting upright doesn't work for you, you find your own way. We're going to make our way first to a standing forward bend. So lifting the knees perhaps into a squat, and then lifting the hips, or again, whatever works for you. Let your head release down. Bend your knees, and we're going to let the arms dangle, the head stay nicely tucked in as we uncurl and roll upright. And then coming into our standing position called mountain pose or Tadasana in Sanskrit. Basically feet under the hips. And important here, you want to let your weight sink slightly into your heels. So most of the time, we tend to, at least I do, I catch myself and I see others doing this too, when we're standing, kind of drop into the balls of the feet, let the kind of hips come forward, the lower back collapses, and then maybe the shoulders round. And that's actually kind of comfortable, but is really bad for your posture, your back. And so as you send your weight back to your heels, your hips move back over the heels, and then the natural curve comes into your lower back, and you naturally come to stand a little more upright. Ideally, your heels are under your hips, and from the side, your hip, right, the center of the hip comes down to the heel, and the shoulder centers over the hip. And then the whole of your ear centers over your shoulders. So many of us have this forward head position from working on computers and driving and such. But basically for every inch the head is forward of the shoulders, or forward of that position of the ears over the shoulders, we're adding about 10 extra pounds of effort for the neck. So if your head is 1 inch forward, that's your head now, instead of weighing about 10 pounds, weighs about 20 pounds. If it's 2 inches forward, 30 pounds. This is the effort for your neck. So really important to bring the chin back slightly, bring chin back and a little bit down, and that draws the ears over the shoulders. So if we round the back and kind of do this normal position where the head is a bit forward, chin is lifted, putting a lot of strain on the neck just in the posture. So finding that upright position, Tadasana. Weight into the heels, and then bring your palms together at your heart. So we'll work with a little visualization of the phases of the moon. So we'll move through the full moon, the half moon, and the new moon. So starting with the full moon, taking the hands up, breathing in as you go, and then making a big circle around you like it's the full moon, like there's a beautiful shining silver light all around you. Lifting up with the breath in, and you're spreading those moon rays all around you, creating a vision of the full moon and its cooling, calming energy. I know not everyone feels calm under the full moon, but traditionally the light of the moon is said to be more calming and relaxing than the bright light of the sun. It's cooling, silvery rays can get so bright in the night that you can actually see your shadow. The moon has no source of its own light. It's just a reflection of the sun. And bringing the hands together at the heart. So whatever light we shine from ourselves, we might act like the sun for others to light up their lives, as if our light is shining and creating light on them. So the moon is reflected light of the sun, and we can reflect each other's light back if we share it. I'm going to take the arms up overhead now, and actually you can do this with the hands at the heart, and this is a good option if your shoulders feel at all challenged, or for a little bit more challenged but still quite easy, elbows are quite bent, hands are just over the head, or for a more stretched out experience, as long as your shoulders are happy with this, the hands are, you can see, together over my head, and my upper arms are by the ears. And we'll move into half moon pose dynamically. So breath in, reach up. Exhale, this is a version of half moon, over to the side. Inhale, center. You can see your body makes the shape a little bit like the half moon. Inhale, center. We want to be careful that we're just really moving the upper body. You're not pushing your hips to one side as you go to the other side. And you really want to lengthen. Lifting and keeping that length as you go side to side. Now, coming over to one side, you can stay there for a few breaths, and you may drop the arm that's on the inside of that curve, reaching down with that arm, reaching up with the other. Good. And then lifting that arm, come back to the center, reaching to the other side. And again, optional to lower that arm, reach down with that arm as you reach up with the other, and breathe. And bringing the arm back up as you come to center. And we'll move into the new moon phase Forward bending. Exhale, going inward into that darkness, into that solitary place. And then inhale, coming up. And again, exhale into that new moon, into the darkness, into that phase of rest. The new moon also symbolizes rest and renewal. But you can stay forward this time. It might be hands on the knees or elbows on the thighs. It might be arms hanging down, head hanging down. You can move your head side to side or forward and back a little if you feel the need to release the neck here. But either way, you want to make sure you're not holding the neck in any particular way. You're not trying to look forward to one side, just letting the head hang. A few more breaths here, any version that suits you. And we'll come all the way up, taking your breath in, bringing the hands together overhead, bringing all of those phases back together, back to the heart. Pausing here. Feel your weight go into your heels. Feel the hips shift over the heels, shoulders over the hips, crown of the head lifting, chin slightly down, back of the neck long. Big breath in here. And let's lift the hands and exhale to release. Wonderful. We'll take one foot forward. So if you're on a mat and you're facing the front of your mat, you'll step 1 foot forward towards the front of your mat and take the other foot so that it's behind you, and turn a little to the side so your both feet can be comfortably on the ground. As much as possible, your upper body is facing the same direction as your front foot, and we'll bend the front knee and lift the arms to come into warrior. And then we're going to add a forward bend. So you can either bring your hands onto your knee and come into a forward bend that way with lots of support. Or if you want to work a little more on back strength, you'll bring the hands behind the back and you'll come forward, keeping the length in your spine, but not supporting yourself against the knee. So either way, lifting up with the breath in, coming forward, and you can move your front leg a little straighter if you'd like more stretch, but you can certainly keep it bent. And either way, we're trying to keep length in the spine, so keeping the natural curves of the back, not rounding, and trying to go as far forward as we can. Good. So either position with the hands, and then let's stay a few breaths. So if you're staying with the hands behind you, think elbows lifting, heart lifting. You'll feel the muscles of your back engage. If that's too much, absolutely bring your hands onto your front knee. Keep lifting the heart. Great. Come all the way up. And release. And step back. Back to mountain pose. So again, feel your weight go into your heels. Practice that every time you come to stand, you're not kind of collapsing the hips forward, shifting back, belly comes naturally in, heart lifts, shoulders drop back and down. From that nice long lifted place, take a step forward with the other foot, turning the back foot to the side so your foot's comfortably on the ground. Your feet can be closer together or further apart, depending whatever's comfortable for you. So there's no rule. Bending the front knee. We'll inhale and lift. And then again, exhale, either hands to the front knee or behind your back. Heart lifts as you come forward and coming up. So you could bend your front knee as you come upright, move it straighter as you go forward, if that feels good for you. Good. Make this the last one and we'll stay this time. And always when we're staying in a pose, you can choose to come out anytime. You can choose to continue moving in and out of the pose as we were just doing. You can stay longer if you like. So heart lifting, elbows and shoulders, reach back, or hands on the knee, lifting the heart. And then coming all the way up, breathing in. Exhaling to release. And then stepping your feet back together. Let's do some forward bending here to bring the two sides of the back and the hips back into a feeling of alignment and equilibrium. Breathing in, reaching up. Again, you can bring the hands to the thighs as you slightly bend your knees, or bring them behind your back. This time letting the back relax forward and lifting up. So any version, hands could come to the thighs, the shins of the ground, or reach back behind you. Okay, let's stay upright next time you come up and release the arms to your sides. We're going to use our chair now. Could be blocks if you've got blocks handy and you prefer to use blocks. So I'll give you an idea of where we're going, and then you can decide what you want to do. So we're going to end up in a kind of forward bend with the hands on the chair or the blocks so that the feet more or less line up still underneath the hips. Bent knees is fine. Hands under the shoulders. So it's just like being on all fours, but well, we are on all fours. They're just different fours than hands and knees. So feet and hands. So it could be blocks again, either way. And what we'll be doing is lifting the leg out to the side and bringing it back in. Okay? So if I were to do this with blocks, I would just be a little lower in my forward bend, but I still want to line everything up, hands under the shoulders and feet under the hips. And here, again, I can reach the leg to the side. So as you're ready, you want to think a little lift in the heart. So the back is nice and long, so we're not rounding the back here. And then straight out to the side, lifting and lowering. So there is a tendency, and it is easier to take the leg back and out to the side, but see if you can take it straight out to the side. And then maybe hold for a few breaths. It doesn't have to be very high to feel this one, so kind. Okay, bring it down, and bend and straighten a few times. Okay, and then other side. So straight out to the side and back in. Straight out. Again, maybe hold for a few breaths. And release. And bend and straighten a few times. And then eventually make your way upright. Feet apart a little bit, hands to your hips, and do a few circles. Circling in one direction and then going the other way as well. And then coming back to the center. And if you've got a chair handy, or it could be a block, the block may or may not work for this. The chair is very handy. So you want to be more or less in the position that I'm in with your feet apart, 1 foot close to the chair, 1 foot obviously further away. And you'll take the foot that's closest to the chair and turn it to face the chair. I'm a little bit close here. And then you're going to bend that knee so it's over the ankle. So my shoulders are facing in one direction, my knee is pointing in the other direction, and my hips are somewhere in between, right? So you want to check with the knee first, it's over the ankle. Hips are on whatever angle is comfortable, and then you might think about turning your upper body a little bit so your shoulders are in line with your legs. Okay, so the hips are off, little shoulders back to center. If that's not comfortable for you, just find the position that is. So if it feels like too much twist, stay a little more sideways in the pose. So arms out to the sides, we're gonna come into side angle pose. So here you're gonna reach over, bring your hand to the chair, and I like to just take the outside edge of the chair, reach the other arm up. An alternative here would be to place your forearm on your thigh. That's totally optional here. Reaching up with the opposite arm. Now, if this arm in the air isn't comfortable, you can bring it behind your back and think about drawing that upper shoulder back. Alternately, arm can be straight up, or you can turn the palm in the direction of your head and reach the arm up and over. It's a little more extension through the side of the body here. And breathing. When you're ready to come up, we'll lift back up to the center. And then release the arms down, straighten the leg, turn your feet so that they're parallel to one another. And we'll do a forward bend here. So you inhale and lift. Soften and bend your knees a little bit. Exhale, either hands or forearms to your thighs or reach down toward the ground. Let your head release. Come all the way up again. And we'll release the arms to the sides. So you can just take your chair or your blocks or whatever you're using here, if you're using anything. Bring it or them to the other side. Again, feet wide, one foot is close to your chair. Turn that foot to face your chair. The other foot, just whatever angle is comfortable. Bending your knee. Again, hips are going to be off on a bit of an angle. See if without your knee moving, you can bring your shoulders back around so they're in the same plane as your legs. Arms to the sides, you're breathing in. And then exhale, reaching either forearm or hand to the knee, or you can reach for the chair. Other arm reaching up, or behind your back, or over your head for a little bit more stretch. And breathing here. Find the most relaxed, easeful expression of this pose. So there's effort involved, but see if you can eradicate the tension that you may have brought into the pose. All right, let's come back up slowly to the center. Release the arms, turning the feet so they're parallel to one another, and we'll do a few forward bends this time. Inhaling, lifting up. Exhaling, coming forward. Repeating that a few more times. You can choose to do it with the legs wide as I am, or you may choose to even bring the feet together and maybe even face the chair. You can stay a few breaths, either hands or elbows on the legs or the chair or reaching toward the ground. Soften your knees, let your head release, and wherever you are, absolutely fine. When you're ready to come up, you'll lift up with the breath in, reaching up overhead, and then releasing. Right. So we're going to come back to the first side using your chair, or you could do this with blocks. Again, a lot trickier with blocks, so I'm going to demonstrate with a chair. For those of you who know this pose, and I know some of you do know this pose, if you want to do it with blocks, you can. We're moving into Ardha Chandrasana, or half moon pose, right? And this is the pose that's one hand is going to be on a chair or a block, one foot on the floor, the other arm and leg will be up in the air. So we'll start the same way we just did, feet a little wider. You'll turn one foot towards your chair. If you're using a block, you want to place the block ahead of that foot and to the baby toe or outside of your foot. And bend the knee a little bit, arms to the sides. So what we'll do now is we'll first come down and place the hand on the chair or the block, and I'm going to reach it a little further along as I shift my weight onto that foot, maybe lift the back leg, maybe not, right? I may just stay here in another version of side angle pose, or without losing my balance, ideally, coming into half moon. The other option, of course, would be to hold the top of the chair. So you're sideways, one shoulder's over the other, one hip is over the other, and reaching out to the side. So holding on to the chair, seat, top, or block. It's possible for some to do this touching the floor, but that's a big stretch. When you're ready to come up, you can place the foot down and then lift back up. So if your half moon was a little bit wobbly, don't worry about it. You can always bring that foot down, come back into the pose again, or you can keep both feet down and do another version of the side angle pose, which is what we did right before. So we'll switch sides again. Our last side bend here for the day. So again, feel a little bit wider than your shoulders, perhaps somewhere in that range. Turning one foot towards your chair. A little softness, bend in the knee. Arms to the sides. You can reach over and place your hand on the chair. And then see about maybe lifting the other leg, reaching up with the opposite arm. Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose. Breathing here. Again, if you start to lose your balance, you just bring that foot down. You can try again. This is really nice to do against a wall if you've got a wall behind you. Great, and then you'll place the foot down, lifting back up, and releasing. And again, bring the feet parallel, bring them in towards each other. Coming to mountain pose. And we're going to make our way back down to the floor. So if you have been using a chair, you may want to just move that out of the way now. You can come towards the front part of your mat if you're using a mat, or if you're not, just make sure you've got a bit of space behind you. We'll take a breath in and raise up the arms. Exhale, bend the knees. Let the arms come down. You can reach and swing back and up, and then lift. So we're inhaling, lifting, exhaling gently, releasing forward. And a couple more. And next time you end up coming into that forward bend, you're going to let the arms either come to the knees, hands to knees, or shins, or reach toward the ground. Bend your knees a little. Stay here for a few breaths. Any version that you feel good in. And then if you like downward dog, you can bring your hands to the ground and step your feet back. Come into dog pose, walking your feet in place. If downward dog is not a pose that you like, or it feels good for you, or if it challenges you in ways that don't support you, you'll come right away to all fours. And if you've been in downward dog, you may come to all fours anytime. And we'll move from all fours to child's pose a few times. Really realigning with the breath and the movement after a whole bunch of side bending today. Just want to really make sure that we come back into alignment nicely. Take your time. Anytime you want to rest in child's pose, go ahead. Taking a few breaths in child's pose or whatever position is comfortable for you. And again, coming into that sense of fullness with the inhale, the fullness of the moon. Exhale, moving into the quietness, the darkness of the new moon. Stay a little longer in child's pose if you like, and then whenever you feel ready, you can come upright and swing around to come onto your back. And when you come down, just take a moment bringing your knees to the chest. So like you've turned your child's pose upside down. The difference here in child's pose, the weight is on the legs, right? So you can always reach behind your thighs here to relieve any pressure on the knees. Or if you want to get a little smaller, you can squeeze in a bit more. So in child's pose, the back is free to receive the breath. Here, the back is against the ground, so the breath moves more into the sides of the rib cage, into the sides of the waist. So tune into that rhythm and movement of your own breath here. Okay, and then let's keep one knee in, bring one foot to the floor. You can let the hands rest on your body or on the ground. You don't need them for this. We'll stretch one leg toward the ceiling, keeping a bit of bend in the knee as you circle the ankle around. If you like, you can fold the leg, but I find it's just as easy and a little more comfortable for my neck and shoulders just to let my arms rest. Circling the other way. Okay, and then press your heel up toward the ceiling. Take the opposite arm, so if your right leg is up, it'll be your left arm. Reaching overhead and grow. Reach up through the heel, out through the fingertips. And then bend the knee, bring that hand to the knee, so opposite hand to knee. And then you'll stretch the leg out on the ground. Take the arm up overhead again, or out to the side if that's more comfortable for you. And reach along that diagonal line from your foot to your fingertips. And then we'll bend the knee. Bring the hand back to the ground of the body, wherever it was. And then other knee comes in. You're gonna reach that leg up toward the ceiling. Again, you can keep a little bend in your knee here and circle your ankle. One way and then the other. And then press your heel toward the ceiling. If it feels good to straighten the leg a little more, you can, but if not, just keep it bent. Take the opposite arm up overhead and reach from the heel to the fingertips. And then bending the knee, bring the opposite hand to that knee, squeeze in. And then reaching the leg out on the ground, reach the arm away again, reaching in that diagonal line from fingertips to your heel. Couple of breaths here. And then lowering the arm, you can bend the knee. And bring both knees in, one hand to each knee. Draw both your knees towards you, and then move your knees away. You can exhale as the knees come in, like you're squeezing the breath out of your body with your legs. And then inhale, you're making space for the breath to come in. Exhaling, drawing in. If you like, you can stretch the legs and arms toward the ceiling. Either give them a shake or do some circles with the wrists and ankles. A little of each. And then when you feel complete with that, you can bring the feet down and we'll get ready for Shavasana, a little relaxation to close our session today. So if there's other movement your body is wanting to do, you can take a moment to do that. And if you want to get any extra props, if you want a bolster under your knees or a blanket over you or a pillow under your head, you can take the time to get what you need. And if you prefer to sit, if sitting for Shavasana is a better option for you, then by all means, you can sit on a chair or a cushion or right on your mat, or I suppose even on your couch, since you may have that option where you are. So making your way slowly to stillness, finding the position that's going to be most comfortable, sustainable for you. And as you let your body start to settle, come back to your breath, come back to this idea that we've been working with through the class of inhaling and imagining the moon growing into its fullness. And exhaling, imagine the moon shrinking back into stillness, into that new moon cycle. So a few breaths like that, tuning into the rhythm of breathing into the fullness of the moon. Breathing out into that emptiness, the quiet, dark place of the new moon. Shavasana is like the new moon phase. We go inward, we become quiet, still. The exhale symbolizes that movement into quietness, into softness and relaxation. So as you focus your attention on your breath, let a little more attention come to the exhale, that new moon phase of letting go. Exhaling, dropping into that quiet, dark place, that cocoon. Often worry that nothing's happening in that dark, quiet, solitude place. This is where growth and transformation is able to happen. Let yourself drop into the exhale, drop into that dark, quiet place inside. Let the weight of your head drop down as the jaw and face muscles soften and relax. The shoulders release, the arms and hands relax. Exhaling the weight of your rib cage, softening the belly and lower back, releasing. You're finding a heaviness in the pelvis as you drop down through the hips. Let each exhalation take you a little further, a little deeper into that still, quiet, dark place. New moon. Relaxing the thighs, softening your knees. Releasing your calves, your ankles, your feet, even your toes, softening. Each exhalation continues to add a layer of softening and letting go, dropping into that dark, quiet, rich place. The moon is always changing and transforming. It goes into this darkness and emerges from it just as we do in our human lives. And we're reminded by the moon that no matter what phase we're in, we're always whole, we're always full. Even when we can't see the moon, we know that the moon is still full. There's just no sunlight reflecting on it in that moment. Allow yourself to go into this darkness, into this solitude, into the richness of transformation. Each exhale takes you there a little more. As you soften and drop in with each exhale, I'll share with you a chant that reminds us of that basic wholeness, our basic completeness or fullness. No matter how we might feel, how fragmented or isolated we may feel, there's a basic wholeness and completeness of fullness that is our very nature, like the nature of the moon. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Start to shift your awareness now to the inhalation, the phase of the moon that's obvious, the growing moon, the full moon. And as we breathe in fully, we're engaging and connecting with that full, bright, beautiful full moon. And breathing into that fullness, that sparkly, silvery, cooling, calming energy of the moon. Gradually add some movement as you're ready. If you choose to stay longer in Shavasana, that's totally fine. If you're ready to move, starting to wiggle fingers and toes, maybe stretching your arms and legs, finding some movement that feels good to you right now. Eventually, if you're ready to come upright and you've been lying down, you can roll onto your side and take your time to slowly come back to sit. And when you come back to sit, bring your two palms together in front of your heart, or the heart center, not the actual heart, which is over a little off to one side. And as we breathe in, lifting the arms into that fullness, as we exhale, circling around. At the end of the exhale, we're back to the center in the new moon, and then inhale into the fullness again. Reminding yourself that we are full of phases and transitions, that we can't stay in the light all the time, and we won't stay in the dark forever either. Everything shifts and changes just like the moon, but there's a basic wholeness, fullness, and completeness within each of us that is our very nature. As we go into these darker days, taking that fullness with you, the fullness of the moon, the fullness of our human being. Namaste. Have a beautiful day.